755 is Real with David O'Brien and Eric O'Flaherty is on the air now.
Hello and welcome into an all-new edition of 755 is Real. Producer Cam here with you. David O'Brien and Eric O'Flaherty taking your Braves questions in real time on the Athletic app in today's podcast. Both guys still traveling EOF in Hawaii, and David traveling all across the land to try to cover these Braves games as we approach the postseason. In today's show, the guys tackle the Braves' path to the playoff, especially after last night's loss to the Nationals. How will the last couple of series shake out for Atlanta? In addition, the guys answering your questions about the postseason roster. Could we even see Bryce Elder, after his terrific start against the Nationals, make the cut and potentially even pitch in the playoffs? And also a quick look at the Mets showdown for this weekend, a critical series to decide the division crown. If you guys like to be updated when we host these live rooms, make sure to follow David and Eric on Twitter at DOBrianATL and at EOF34. Also, make sure to follow 755 is Real on all podcast platforms if you haven't already. Apple, Spotify, your podcast player of choice. It also helps us out if you leave a review and a 5-star rating. In addition, if you haven't already, make sure to go subscribe to our YouTube channel where we post all of the shows on there for your convenience, including our video shows, which we'll be getting back to shortly after the guys are done with all this travel. As always, the support is appreciated. None of this would be possible without you guys. And without further ado, here's David and Eric.
Evan D. What's up, Evan?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Not bad.
Just two quick questions. If you caught Judge's 60-second home run ball, what would you ask for? And why are the Braves so bad at extra inning games?
I wouldn't ask for anything other than a bat, because people that try to fund their kids' college education are assholes off of somebody else's big moment. But,
I agree.
But hopefully it lands in the bullpen like last night's did. That was awesome.
Yeah, I wouldn't ask for anything.
I'd get a bat. I'd get a signed bat. That'd be cool.
I mean,
Maybe a jersey.
You're getting something if you don't ask for anything anyway, but you look better.
Right. Whatever they offer me, that's what I'd take, because they always offer something good. You know, I wouldn't get these people that ask for season tickets and that kind of thing, or autographs from other players. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, they're just going to sell them. You know, it's not a profit-making thing. It should be a memory thing, man.
Yeah, I agree. Especially with like Pujols' 700th. I probably wouldn't even ask for a bat. Like, that's his. It's his achievement.
Well, he's going to do something for you anyway, especially if you show that kind of grace
exactly.
and just give it to him. You'll get something better probably.
Exactly. He's probably going to thank you, and it's going to be pretty cool. You're going to look really magnanimous. Is that the word? Yeah. You're going to look great, much better than you look for saying when they say, well, what'd the person get? And you go, oh, we were offered this, and he took this, and then he said, we'll give him 5 bats and 6 balls and 8 jerseys and season tickets, and that was what it cost. You know, then you just look ridiculous. So, yeah. But as far as why the Braves are not bad, are bad in extra innings, they really haven't been that bad this year. For a while, they started out bad, just like they were last year, but. Before last night, they were 500, whereas the Nationals were 2-7, I think it was. So I don't know. I don't know that they still haven't figured out this kind of exactly what kind of strategy they want to do. Some people almost automatically intentionally walk somebody, to set up double play. Braves really don't do that. And if you think about it, the type of team they are. And Snit said it 100 times, they hit home runs. They literally are the only team in history that's never had a sacrifice bunt in a season. They've got 6 more games. If they don't get a sacrifice bunt, not only that, but no team's ever had fewer than 4, and they're going to have 0. So if you think about it, they're a team that hits home runs. They don't bunt, and they don't play small ball. So those are the things that win you these extra inning games when you start with a runner at second base. So unless you're going to hit a 2-run homer,
That lineup's built to score 3 runs, 4 runs in an inning, not 1.
Yep. So, I mean, if you think about it, the things that Snit says that they are built to do are not the things that win extra inning games. That when you start with a runner at second base, and if you're the visiting team and you don't score at all in that first, then the home team, all they have to do is get that run. All they have to do is hit 2 ground balls and they win.
Yeah.
Or a ground ball and a sac fly, and you win.
Yeah, I mean, they got the sac fly from Acuna. Well, not a sac fly, but they got the fly out from Acuna yesterday, which was essentially a bunt. You got the runner to third with one out. But, I mean, the Nationals had a dude, that Finnegan guy's throwing 99 and locating it pretty well. He's going to get some strikeouts. They tend to strike out, and he got through.
Yeah, exactly.
I should know this, but I'm hoping – do they have that rule in the postseason?
No.
Okay, thank God.
No.
Because you go extra innings with this team in the postseason, they're likely to maybe not score the first inning, but maybe put up 3 and it's a wrap after that.
Yeah, they're built a lot better for it. Yeah, if you think about it, I mean, how cheap would that be for the World Series to end with the ghost runner?
I know. I should know the answer to that, but the rules change so much.
Yeah, but it's not obvious. I mean, yeah, and it has. It's changed so much. And by the way, the other night we got to look at what games are going to look like next year with the pitch clock. When Elder came up, it was beautiful, man. It was like 2 hours and 20 minutes, I think. And because Elder has pitched with a pitch clock all year. And those guys come up, and it's beautiful. It's so noticeable, man.
Yeah, I mean, I hate the general concept of putting a clock on a baseball game, but it's gotten to the point where hitters step out every pitch. Pitchers are shaking, stepping off, picking over. I mean, an at-bat should never take 5 minutes, and some of them do. It's not good for baseball the routines guys have built.
No, I'm all for it. I mean, I just thought that game was so much more enjoyable. It was moving so crisp. I mean, a lot of that was him pitching so well, getting outs, pitching to contact. But
strikes.
Right. But it's obvious when these guys come up who've pitched on the pitch clock all year, like Muller, like Tucker Davidson early on when he had pitched. They work quick.
I never understand it, guys that walk around the mound and get there. I mean, it takes 2 seconds to read a swing. You know what you want to throw, step back on the mound and throw it.
Especially starters, I mean, closers, their whole thing, they're so into that. And it's right. Like Papelbon was the ultimate guy. I mean, and Kenley takes forever too, but Papelbon just like every pitch was just a drama, I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to glare in over my glove. It's like, come on, man.
I tried to get the ball and throw before I could think.
Yeah.
I was right back on it. Give me a sign. I'll throw whatever you put down. Let's get this over with. All right. Who else we got?
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Evan.
Yeah.
Michael, I don't know. This L or I, you always get a little worked up over it. It looks like an L, but I think it's an I.
Hey, what's your thought on, I know the team's going to say it wasn't a big deal. How much do you think last night's loss and then the Mets comeback win hurts? I mean, obviously it's got a huge impact going into this weekend. Does that linger with them with the day off, or is that something at this point in time you just shake off and move on?
It sucks, right? But I don't think it changes the general mindset that you got to take care of business against the Mets when they come to town. It would have been huge to be tied, but it's not going to change your overall mindset that this is the biggest series of the year and you have to play well here. Neither one of those games would matter if they suck.
Okay. Yeah, this team, if they've shown me anything, and their mantra is you worry about today's game and that's it. You can't change what happened in the past. You're not going to change what's going to happen in the future. Just look at today's game and play it. And that's how they've been able to do what they've done the last 2 years and come and start slow and then reel everybody in because they don't worry about what happened yesterday. So.
Yeah, I mean, I was there, and I just thought they were going to be able to finish it off, and it was tough to watch. But just the atmosphere and lots of Braves fans was awesome.
Well, let's just say it affects the fans. It lingers with the fans and on Twitter and everything a hell of a lot longer than it does with the players.
Yeah, I shook it off. I was just curious how they do.
Yeah,
I mean, they got to come out.
Take a tough loss.
It's a tough loss, right? But they got to sweep the series, but that's what they were going to try to do anyway. They were going to try to win every game because when this is over, they still got 3 games to play, and they're going to have to face Alcantara down in Miami. So, I mean, everybody's thinking that this series was going to determine everything. No, if they were tied, the Braves could have. It would have been great because the Braves could have gotten the home field advantage by by sweeping, but they have to sweep to get home field advantage anyway. You know what I mean? Because the Mets are up 9-7. It's head to head is the home field advantage. So the Braves would have to sweep to get home field advantage, regardless of what happened last night. It's head to head record. So it's going to really matter. I mean, each team has to play a series that next week. We just saw the Nats can be pesky with certain pitchers going, and we know what the Marlins could do with Alcantara pitching. They got a winning record with him pitching, despite their horrible record. They got a winning record with him, like 19-14 or something. So that's not a given at all. So yeah, it sucked. It was a bad loss, but and I'm like you. I thought they were going to win it too. I will say one thing: as bad as Odorizzi's been, because he's not been good, that one wasn't on him last night. They got him out of there, and the bullpen was incredible. Did you realize the bullpen was perfect last night until they gave up the inherited runner?
Yeah.
5 1/3 perfect innings from 5 relievers.
I was just happy to see Jesse Chavez in person.
Yeah, he's the man.
Lucky man.
But they,
I think,
but they scored, but they scored 2 runs. It wasn't on. It was not on last night. It was not on Odorizzi. It was on an offense that got 2 hits off of Josiah Gray, who had a 5-something ERA. They got 2 hits in 6 innings against him, and one of them was Matt Olson's opposite field home run. One other hit.
Yeah, it's for me. It's when I got out into the real world after being in baseball, you're so trained not to really let anything affect your mindset and to be able to take loss and failure. I'd be hanging out with a buddy, and his day was ruined because he got stuck in a little bit of traffic. In baseball, you have these tough breaks and these things happen, and you just learn to shake them off, and you learn how valuable a positive mindset is. So when a team loses a game like that, you're pissed for like 20 minutes, and then you put it behind you and you get ready for the next game. And I'm sure that's the team's mindset. And like Dave said, they know they have to sweep, for home field, and they probably have to sweep to win the division. So it's a huge series regardless. And, you take a tough loss like that, you shake it off, and you're ready to play on Friday.
And if they sweep, it's not likely, but we've seen DeGrom. He got lit up by Oakland last week.
Yeah.
So is he going to get pitched poorly 2 times back to back? I don't know, but he's not, Sandy Koufax out there. And anything can happen with Scherzer. He's dominant one time, and then the next time he's got a twinge and he's out of the game. So,
yeah.
And Bassett in the last game against Charlie, that could go either way. So, but here's the thing: they can win the division still without even sweeping. Now they need to sweep. They need to do that to get home field advantage. And then if it's tied, they've got home field advantage. So, or not home field advantage. They got the tiebreaker. They win the division if it's tied. You know what I mean? So they need to sweep to get that. But barring that, if they could win 2 out of 3, win 2 out of 3, it's tied again, right? The Mets have the tiebreaker. But then if the Marlins could sweep, the Braves could sweep the Marlins, which they certainly can do, then all it would take is 1 loss of the Mets against the Nationals, and the Braves got the division.
Yeah.
So those last 3, people keep forgetting those last 3, but those are going to be important, obviously. And, they need to at least win 2 out of 3. Let's put it that way for sure. Because if you win 1, it's done. If you only win 1 game, for all intents and purposes, it's over. Because the Nationals are not going to get swept by the Mets are not going to get swept by the Nationals.
No.
But if you could win 2 out of 3, and then you could go down to Miami and sweep them, then all it would take was the Mets, to lose 1 game against the Nationals. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. 1 game doesn't seem like a lot, but at this point, it's against a really good team that's going to win 100. It's going to take some good fortune, but they can still do it. And if they don't, for me, I look at this series as basically a chance to get ready for the playoffs and feel a playoff series and face really good pitching and be sharp for the postseason.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just they did that. I love the wild card series compared to the wild card game.
Me
but
too.
Man, of all the years, without having, because they had to condense everything and all that, this is just the year that you want, and because of who your opponent is in the division series from this side of the bracket.
Yeah.
If you're the wild card team instead, if you're the runner-up, division runner-up, you with the wild card instead of the division champion, just having to face the rested Dodgers with your number 3 or number 4 starter, going in game 1, that's tough. That's a tough duty, man.
Yeah, it is.
Out there.
That's probably the biggest hurdle, is just how it affects your rotation.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you could make a case that you're better off as far as the other players playing rather than having 5 days of rest. You could definitely make that case.
100%. Not.
And the relievers too.
For 5 days and then trying to hit somebody's ace.
And the relievers as well. You could argue that they're better off not having, a 5 days, everybody 5 days and having to throw bullpens or whatever. But yeah, the starting thing is the thing, especially when you got aging guys, that are going to get full rest, like it's going to allow like Kershaw, and just that's a tall task right there to have to use your 2 or maybe even 3 of your guys, and you got to hope the Strider is ready, But if you were able to, if and that's the other huge thing for the Braves, why this particular year is so important to win the division. You get a whole nother week rest for Strider with that oblique if you win the division, and you don't have to use him in a wild card series.
Yeah, and obliques are they're kind of scary, because if you're feeling anything in there and it's still there, it can just it can be kind of nagging, and then with any movement it can just pop on a guy, and that's a wrap for sometimes it's 6 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about not pitching again until spring training probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you pull that thing, he just had some soreness. So I think that was really smart to stop when they did, and for him to say something. I feel pretty confident that he's going to be ready, but I don't really have anything to base that on other than just how they characterized it when the incident occurred. He pitching it. He didn't mention it after the game at all. He just felt some soreness later.
Yeah. It'd be
so
scary if he came out of a game with it. I mean, normally if a guy feels it in the game and has to pull himself out, it's going to be a minute.
Right. He didn't even come to the interview room with this, with a wrap around it or anything. Yeah. So
that's probably just something minor they're being real careful with, and hope that's best case. Luke F. What's up, Luke?
Hey, can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Hey, guys. I kind of wanted to look outside of the Braves for a second. So there's 2 managerial openings at the end of the year already in the division. And there's probably going to be a couple more. It's probably only a matter of time before somebody like Walt Weiss gets a job, right? I mean, he's been credited a lot with success for the Braves, and I don't think Wash will get a job. I think if he was going to take a job, it would have been last year, I think. But probably think it's only a matter of time before the Braves lose some guys on the staff, right?
Not necessarily. They have an old staff by today's standards. I mean, they have a terrific staff. I've said that. I think they have the best coaching staff in baseball. I really do. But they're old as far as today's managers. And, I mean, let's be honest. Most teams, if not the vast majority of teams, want a puppet manager. They want a manager that is going to listen to the GM and the analytics people and incorporate all of the analytics that they have and all that. The Braves kind of have the perfect mix of a GM, president of baseball operations, Alex Anthopoulos, who is both heavy into analytics and heavy into scouting, heavy into old school and new school. And he's got a perfect manager who has a staff that has adapted to that. And is really good at presenting analytics to players and all that. And anyway, the long way of winded answer is, most teams are going to hire, as we've seen time and time again now, guys with very little managerial experience. I mean, there are exceptions, obviously, like Showalter. Thompson gets a job in Philly. It was a lot like Snit stepping in midstream with a long background as a minor league manager. But those are very few and far between these days. Most of them are young guys, former players, guys that come over from coaching, but are young and are heavily versed in analytics, that kind of thing. And Walt is a great bench coach. But he butted heads with the front office people in Chicago, in Denver, with the Rockies, because they had a real ass as the president. I mean, Walt's a great dude, and he didn't want to take the guy's crap. But you get a reputation of, you're not a guy that'll just do whatever they say, and that's what a lot of these teams want. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind Wash could be a great manager right now, but I don't see a team hiring a 70-something-year-old guy to manage right now. I mean, with Buck being the exception, and look at La Russa. I mean, he made it through like half a year last year, through a year where he said some things, but it worked out because they played for him. But look at this year; it's just a disaster there. So, there's not a whole lot of that going on right now. So I don't know if they'll lose their guys or not. I mean, they're not going to lose. Seitzer's not going to go manage anywhere. He loves what he does. He's a hitting coach. That's it. Cranny, their pitching coach, he's not going to go manage anywhere. He's an old pitching coach, loves doing what he does. So they might get lucky. I mean, unfortunate for a guy who does want to manage again. But while Walt or Wash would love to have a good managerial job, would take it, they also love what they do, and I don't think either of them are disappointed to be here. And like both of them have told me, if I got another job, yeah, that'd be great, but I also love what I'm doing.
But you know what else they love? Playoff shares.
Exactly, man.
You're looking at making an extra 100 to maybe 400 grand.
Yeah, closer to 400 if you World Series.
The World Series is if you just make the playoffs and lose in the first round, it's like 60, 70 grand. So
yep, yeah. If you don't win a game,
you're getting an extra. So for me, it's like you might be able to make a little more as a manager. I'm not sure what they're paying managers these days. Some of them are getting paid pretty well, but
yeah,
you might be able to make a little more. But you can go manage a team that's going to lose 100 games, or you can have the time of your life winning 100. And have a chance to make 100 to 400 grand with your postseason share. If I'm a coach on the Braves right now, I'm not going anywhere until this run's over.
Yeah, man, people don't realize how much those playoff shares mean to people other than players, and even players, the young ones, because the Braves have a lot of guys making minimum. Like stars, like Michael Harris and Strider. Yep. And man, like last year, they got like 300-400, close to 400 grand per person. That's like more than half their salary for a lot of those young guys.
Yeah.
And then the front office and like people like the clubbies and everything that if they vote them a full share, oh my God, you're talking life changing money for that. They can go buy the house that or pay off their whole house or whatever they want to do.
Yeah. One World Series run, if you're a clubhouse attendant or somebody that's probably making 60, 70 grand a year. You make one World Series run and get voted a full share, you're paying off your house. There's so many things that it changes people's lives, a World Series run. But
pitching. Yeah, coaches double their salary or triple their salary.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, if I'm a coach and a team's going to the playoffs every year and I'm getting that bonus at the end of the season, you'd have to offer me a pretty damn cool job somewhere else to even think about taking it, because this team's they're going to continue to be good.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm like what you just said. If Wash was going to get that job, I think it would have been a couple of years ago. The Rangers, that was right there. Oakland was right there. Those are the two obvious ones. And they both had an opening, and neither one of them. Look what the A's did. They went to Kotz. They went to Kotze with no managerial experience. Yep. Kotz is no puppet, but he's a former player who understands, embraces analytics and all that, and knew that they were going to lose a ton and all that with this team. Yeah, and that's not really a situation for Wash, to be in. But the Rangers, they thought they were going to be pretty good. They spent some money, but they suck. They're terrible, and they didn't hire Wash. And they had a chance, and he took them to 2 World Series, and they didn't hire him.
Yeah.
So the ship might have sailed there, and if so, the Braves are lucky because he is such an integral part of everything they do. Wash is hugely important to the Braves. Well, look at that infield, man. Just look what their infield has done the last few years.
Yeah, you really can't put a number on what he's worth.
Yeah. Just a motivational, just what he means to the clubhouse chemistry, motivating not just the infielders, motivating everybody. And when they see him out there, this old guy out there busting his ass in the heat, if you're a young guy and you see that, you're like, I need to get out there and work.
Yep. He comes in every day. He's doing his core program. He's doing everything. And the best thing about watching the clubhouse is there's always one guy he's talking shit to. And they go back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
And you get Wash going and somebody pissed him off and he just lights him up and the whole clubhouse is laughing. That's the stuff that gets you through the year.
And Weiss is a great bench coach, man. He is. I know, he's, from what I understand, all the players loved him out there. Most of them did as manager. And I think he could be a good manager still. But man, he's really good as a bench coach. He's, he's got that respect. He's still young enough that the players, see him as, one of them. And you don't mess with him, man. He's a tough dude.
Yep.
So he can be kind of the good cop, bad cop for Snit, but he really doesn't need to be. I mean, he just says something, people listen. They don't mess with him. And I think he's good with Snit, with making decisions and all that. And, the guy I hated seeing leaving was Terry Pendleton. I really thought he was could have been a big part of the staff, but the staff has been really good. So you can't really complain. And I liked when they added Eddie Perez back to the staff.
Yes.
Eddie's really good.
Eddie will keep you humble too.
Oh yeah, man. He just adds another piece to that chemistry, They've all got a distinct personality and they all add something to it. And they've covered all the bases as far as having a couple of Latin, having a couple Spanish speaking coaches that make the Latin guys feel part of the team all the time. They never feel like they're being left out or anything. They got some old school guys. They got some new school guys. They got an analytics guy in the bullpen, heavy analytics. They got a pitching coach who's old school, but it's not, doesn't scoff at the analytics and cranny. They got a really good mix. And as long as they can keep it together for a few more years before some of those guys start to get too old, they are kind of in that sweet spot. They're still in that, that helps in that championship window.
Yep. Thanks, Luke. Philip. What's up, Philip?
Yeah, what's up, guys?
Hey, what's happening?
Good. I got a question, and Dave, you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier in some of your comments, but Elder has been really, really impressive.
Yep.
In his few opportunities that he's gotten so far this year, and we've all noticed the inconsistencies, to say the least, with Odorizzi.
Mm-hmm.
So as they're starting to kind of, sketch this out with roster construction for at least the first and possibly second rounds of the playoffs, depending on how far they get, what are your thoughts on whether or not Elder will make the cut and possibly get an opportunity to start in the playoffs? Or is it a bullpen opportunity? So that's my question.
I think he's going to make it, and I don't think Odorizzi's going to make it. I mean, I don't see any rationale for having Odorizzi on the playoff roster and not having Elder on it. I just don't see any rationale for having Odorizzi on it, period. Because you got Elder now, and he can be your Kyle Wright last year that Kyle was in the World Series, but he can do it for all the rounds for you. As far as the start, that wouldn't be unless he's needed, I mean, they got 4 guys. He's not going to start ahead of one of those guys, and they don't need 5 starters. But we know how something can happen because it does. Yeah. Seems like every postseason. You got one guy that's coming back from a oblique. You got one guy last year broke his leg in the first game of the World Series. I mean, things happen, man, and it would really be good and behoove them, and I'm sure they're already decided this probably, to have Elder at the as ready as a long guy or ready to step in to start. Last year they started Dylan Lee. People forget they had bullpen games in the last rounds of the postseason. They had a couple bullpen games. They started Dylan Lee, but that was the game that Kyle Wright ended up in effect, starting because he came in the first inning and what was dynamite. So this year they won't need to have a bullpen game if they have a guy like Elder on the staff, and you got 4 starters too. So I think he's kind of cemented it with how good he's been in September, because it's not 1 or 2 starts. He's had 4 starts. Granted, they've been against the Nationals and the Marlins, but he's pitched really well, and the strides that he made this year in AAA are just so noticeable.
For me, he's ready to go. Like, if a starter has a rough start, I'm telling him you could be in the second or third inning any game,
Yeah.
It's easy to tell that to a young, hungry, ripe player that's just making his footing in the big league. He's not going to have any trouble getting up for that game. He's going to have no trouble doing the preparation, being mentally locked in to pitch every day. And you have a bad start from a guy, maybe Charlie comes out and doesn't have it and he's walking some guys. He gives you the confidence that you can have that quick hook and he can come in and throw strikes and eat innings. And even if you're down in the game, he could save your bullpen for the next day. And, we've talked about it plenty times, what a value a really good long man has just on your whole team. But I'd have no problem putting him in that role, and I don't think he'd have any problem being in it.
And him being 21 or 22, and I think he's a little older than the other guys because he 3 years of college, but no playoff experience. But so in that role you're talking about, it could almost help him because he's not going to have time to think about making a start. And if they're going to be, we need you in there. Oh, I'm ready. Let's go. Second inning, he's in there and pitches 5 innings, So I think he's perfect for that role right now. He's pitching the best he's pitched in his life. He's figured it out. He's not trying to overpower guys. He knows what his strengths are. And that's that nasty sinker and that terrific slider to complement it. But really that sinker is just, when it's on like it was the other night, my God, he could
throw it right down the middle.
Right-handers and left-handers, man.
And if, without the extra inning rule, you get into a situation where maybe you burn the pen a lot the night before and you hit the extra innings, you could bring him in, and if he's hot, let him go 5, let him go 6.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a guy like that in extra innings, it's priceless.
Yeah, especially when you got a couple other guys like McHugh that can go 2 innings. Minter can go 1+ inning. Jackson Stevens went 2 extra innings in Philly the other day, so they're set for that. And I really like their bullpen for the postseason. Especially with Elder as a part of it as the long guy. And that's a quality long guy that can give you a spot start in a heartbeat.
It allows you to use McHugh for a third of an inning. If you got a tough righty and you just want him to spin breaking balls at him, it allows you to do that with him. It allows you to use Chavez in different situations because you got length the next day with him sitting down there.
But I think Odorizzi has pitched his way off the postseason roster. I just don't think you can have a guy that walks people like that. And he just really hasn't. I mean, if he pitched like he did in Houston, that's one thing, but he hasn't. He just hasn't. So I don't think you can take that. You can burn a spot on the roster hoping that he figures it out. I mean, I think
in that position, you understand it.
Yeah.
I went to the Mets in 2015 and I was trash. And, they have this meeting after the season. They call everybody in, and some guys get their feelings hurt and have to listen, and have this long conversation. I walked in, I looked at Terry Collins. He looked at me, and I was like, I'll buy a flight home. And we just laughed because I was that bad. And, the situation. I mean, you can't get your feelings hurt. They're trying to win a World Series, and you're not pitching well. It's a tough break.
Yeah. Yeah. And Elder has pitched his way onto that roster. So.
Yep. And that's just how it goes. Most guys are very understanding of that.
And also Elder has pitched his way into a very good possibility he could be pitching for a spot in a rotation next spring.
Yeah.
He's going to be competing for sure. I mean, we saw Kyle Wright take a step back in the spring 2 years ago. Pitched great for most of the spring and then bombed in the last couple starts and didn't make the rotation. So, but he wasn't quite ready. And then he spent a year in AAA and he was ready. Elder spent 4 months down there this year, and he looks ready. And I think he can come to spring training next year and compete for a spot at the back of that rotation.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Ryan S. What's up, Ryan? You there?
Yes.
Hey.
Hey, guys. I've been watching a lot with Matt Olson lately, and, of course, lots been made of his struggles, and he's starting to come around at the plate the last couple games.
Yeah, he has.
I just, noticed, kind of looking at his first home run of the season and the one he hit the other night opposite field, you can see the stance is noticeably different, especially with the hands placement. It looks like he's really inside, at the plate right now. And, Eric, I guess, even though you weren't a hitter, you were a pitcher, you could probably relate to this. Can you talk about what it's like to go through a long season and the ups and downs of mechanics and what these guys are going through?
A lot of guys just kind of get stuck in between and can't commit to the change they know they need to make because you got to hit today. And maybe his struggles the last few weeks are him trying to make these changes and you have to answer questions about it after a game, and it's so tempting to go back to what you were doing, but that bad habit you created got you in trouble in the first place. So, I mean, it's constant tinkering, and you can get yourself in trouble over tinkering, but you can also get yourself in trouble being too comfortable and not being willing to make that change. So I don't have any doubt that he's working his ass off. And then, and this is how it works. You struggle making this adjustment, you're off and your timing's off, or this is weird, and you don't hit, and then all of a sudden it clicks. And what you've been working on in BP finally transferred to the game, and you don't have to think anymore. But the worst place to be in the world is, instead of competing, you're playing baseball swing instead of baseball, or you're playing, baseball throw instead of pitching. And it's when you struggle, you take those mechanical things out there with you, and you're thinking mechanics on the mound, you forget to compete. And I think it happens to the best of us. It happens to every player. Once you can get to a point where what you've been working on is just naturally flowing and happening in the game, then you can get back to looking at what you're actually trying to do with the pitch, what pitch you're hunting. But when you're caught in your mechanics, I mean, it is such an uphill battle. It's almost hopeless. And I think a lot of guys just get stuck there. And, the questions you answer from the media, the fans putting pressure on you, it doesn't compare to the pressure you're putting on yourself. And he knows he's been struggling, and it just kind of gets out of hand for you. But for me, the last few games, the way he's been swinging the bat, and he's hitting the ball hard, even if the results aren't there right away, you find little victories like just hitting the ball hard, and the hits will come, and he's starting to look really good.
Yeah, that opposite field homer was a really good sign last night, his 30th homer.
Yep.
By the way,
it's best.
Nice when you can slump for a couple of months and still hit 30 homers, huh?
Yeah.
Well, what I like too is you're seeing him hit the ball to all fields the last couple of nights, and
he's pulling and he's hitting either way.
Yeah, and with some exit velocity and stuff, and where he was just in that stretch where it just seemed like he was rolling over everything, weak contact. It still seems like they're pitching him down low, and he's chasing that a little bit. But it does look like his eye level's getting better.
If you remember early in the season, he made some adjustments, and he really took off and went on that surge. And we were asking, what did he do differently? And he was kind of uncomfortable talking about it because he tried to downplay it. We were trying to, make it out to be these changes that he made in his stance, his hand positioning was why he was really taking off. And he tried to kind of downplay that, like you guys shouldn't get too carried away with that because I tinker with stuff all through a season when things aren't going bad. Or when things are going rough. So he tinkered. He listened to some things sites told him. He changed some things. He took off, but he was kind of like letting us know, this doesn't guarantee anything. So I think, like Eric said, I think when he started really struggling, and this thing got pretty bad, like worst slump of his career he was just in, I think he reverted to what, like Eric said, going back to what he was comfortable with in the past, because he had a great season last year, doing things that weren't working for him at the first part of this year and when he made changes and took off. So I think he probably consciously or subconsciously kind of reverted to that when he's in a box. Maybe he's not even doing that in batting in BP, but he gets in a box in the game and he's reverting to what was so comfortable for years before this.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times too, obviously he's always going to be compared to Freddie and what Freddie's doing versus what he's doing. But if people remember, Freddie would go through some slumps. Obviously, maybe not as deep as this was for Matt, but if you remember his MVP year, he had a pretty rough start. Now he was crushing the ball, but he was in a slump for the first 3-4 weeks.
Oh yeah, he got off to a terrible start, and it was basically a third of the season because that was a short season.
Yeah, and you see it all the time, guys that are going through this slump, and everybody wants them to change, and they say, I know what works for me, I'm sticking with it, and that's one of the hardest things to do. And what works for you, and what you're good at, isn't playing out. But sometimes it's a mental thing. Sometimes it's your approach. You're not being patient enough, and it has nothing to do with your swing. The more you can do to just have a consistent swing and a consistent approach, the more you're going to see consistent results. But it's a long season. Your body goes through things. Hips get tight, or your upper back gets tight, and you're swinging a little different. And
look at Austin Riley right now.
Yeah.
Austin was an MVP in the middle of the season. He was right there, top 3 MVP, and he's going through a really brutal slump right now.
Yeah.
So, and I thought
for me how hard baseball is.
Yeah, I thought he was past that, but they're never past it.
You're never past. The only guys that play a really long time are the guys that completely understand that you're never one bad habit away from having an absolutely shit season. and can handle that slump and can handle that failure and not think they're done and keep working through it.
Yeah. Even Chipper had a year where he hit 240 something or whatever late in his career.
Those guys that you see just fall off a cliff are the ones that can't, maintain their confidence and their approach through those struggles. Right. But it's good to see Matt come out of it.
Yeah. Now they need to get Riley going. Those two are so important to them in the postseason.
As long as they get going in the next 6 days, they'll be good.
Yeah, because they need to hit some home runs in the postseason. This team to win, they're going to have to hit home runs.
Yeah. Yeah, offense kind of goes as they go.
Yep.
Tony P. What's up, Tony?
Hey, y'all. How's it going?
Not bad.
Dave, right. Eric, I just wanted to say first off, love the work. Dave, you're basically worth the whole athletic subscription on its own. So great work this season. Love the library.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Want to talk about second base a little bit. Just wanted to see if there was an update on Ozzie. And sorry if you reported that and I missed it. But also, love Orlando's magic that he's brought to the roster this year. It's been fantastic. But obviously, we're excited about Vaughn too. He had a bit of a slump. He's been left out of the lineup. How's this going to go for them at second base over the next few weeks? And then what are they thinking about for the postseason? The second base, is Ozzie maybe going to be back in time for the wild card series? And if not,
well, his hand was in a cast. His hand was in a cast at the White House. So I ain't not expecting him back for the wild card series. So, but we have not had an update as far as what he's doing. But I just know his hand was in a hard full cast at the White House. So, and Arcia, if you saw the stats that posted the last, he's been incredible at Nationals Park. So there was no way Snit was not going to play him there. It's one of those weird things where a guy there's no really explanation for it, where a guy can really just be awful at a stadium or terrific at a stadium. But it happens. And Arcia's numbers at Nationals Park are off the charts. I mean, he had homered in 5 straight games in which he'd had an at-bat. The guy's got, he's got 1 fewer homer this year at Nats Park than Nelson Cruz has. So that's why Snit played him every day there. Plus, He played well. He played well there, too. But he's got 5 homers at Nationals Park this year in 24 at-bats or something, 25 at-bats now. The streak was ended last night. But, I mean, so there was no way Snit was not going to play him. Plus, his defense is good. I mean, Vaughn Grissom's not, spectacular defensively at second base. He's just been had such a hot bat that once he slumped, there's no reason you had to keep him in there. So he's going to play kind of the hot hand. And he really likes Arcia's defense. Remember, he made a couple of plays last night that were really special. That stretch, I mean, he saved the run. He saved the ball, the throw going into the right field corner in the foul territory with that stretch he made. That was terrific. He looked like a first baseman on that play to me. But so I don't know. I don't think he's going to be back for a wild card series. That would really surprise me. But maybe after that, maybe he takes the cast off and starts hitting. But I think you're going to go with Grissom and Arcia and do matchups, basically.
Yeah, and he's barely gotten to play this year, so you don't know what you're going to get out of him.
It's a shame, man.
Take off. He's going to have to go play in some games to get ready. It's been a tough year for him.
Man, one of those years you just
forget about.
Just write it off. It wasn't meant to be, man. Yeah. He was struggling. Then he breaks his foot, and then he gets back and he plays a game and a half and breaks a different bone and a different limb. I mean, that's snake bit, man.
Got to start eating some cheeseburgers. Too lean.
Just means he's going to kill it next season. That's all that means.
Yeah,
probably does, because he is going to come in revved up and ready to go, man. I mean, he doesn't have an ounce of fat on his body, but he'll probably come in 10 pounds more of muscle, next year.
Hey, do you remember the year they told Hayward he needed to gain weight and he gained 30 pounds of muscle? He came in at 252 with not an extra ounce of fat on him.
He was a monster.
I think Ozzie has some similar genes because he is shredded.
He's shredded. He's like 165 pounds of fast twitch muscle fiber.
Yeah. Yep. That's being blessed. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, y'all.
That's going to do it for us here on 755 Israel. Thank you to all who turned out to the live room, and thank you for listening to today's show. We'll be back next week to recap the Mets series, and I think we're all hoping for a favorable outcome in that 3-game set. So make sure, if you aren't already following David and Eric on Twitter, make sure you're following the podcast feed. You've left a review, a 5-star rating, and also that you're subscribed to us on YouTube. You can find the link to our YouTube channel in the show description. David and Eric can't wait to talk to you guys next week. And as always, 755 is real. We're out.